Welcome back, episode 26 of the Full Program Golf Podcast. And this week, I'm joined by a world record holder and all-round great bloke, Josh Simpson, or as you might know him, ginger.golf on socials. He lets us know exactly what it was like to play 652 different golf courses in a calendar year. And as you can imagine, there are lots of stories from along the way. If you haven't already, please do hit that subscribe button, and we promise we're going to keep churning out these episodes. And so without further ado, let's get into it. Josh Simpson, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me on.
An absolute pleasure. So you are ginger.golf on socials, and those that follow you will know that you have just broken the world record for most different golf courses played in a year at 652. So my opening question to you is, how long did the clubs go away for after that?
I think I was down the range within a week, I think. That's the one thing I missed the most, I think, from the playing golf was actually going down the range and actually just hitting a few balls and practicing, because weirdly enough, you don't really have time if you're playing that much golf. You don't really have the time or the willpower to go down the range and actually practice. So I was grateful to just have a nice little chilled day down the range.
Love it. Yeah, much quicker than I was expecting, to be perfectly honest. I followed along the whole way. I think I followed you certainly on my personal account prior to the challenge, and knew you're kind of on your crusade to play the top 100 in England, or was it UK back in the day?
England.
In England. And then obviously, you kind of hit the big time, so to speak, when the world record came about, and obviously your following grew and everyone was really along for the ride, like I was. I saw you down the range quite a few times, actually, to kind of touching on that. Like, you did sneak in a couple of practices, and I had a look at the handicap chart. I know it went up and down throughout the year. What was that journey trying to manage the handicap whilst also just kind of focusing on the record throughout the year?
It was tough. I think I kind of accepted that I'd only really go down the range if I was struggling, and if just the swing wasn't going right. When you're playing every single day and you've not really got a chance to play. I mean, given I wasn't warming up, so it's just pretty much rocking out of bed within 50 yards of the first tee and cracking on in the morning after a few kind of half-assed stretches. But it was more just in case if it was going really bad, I'd hate it. And you have this kind of expectation of yourself and where you think you are. And my logic was that even though I've played a stupid amount of golf courses, I still should be playing at a certain level. Looking back at it now, I probably could have cut myself some slack, but I just wanted to play the best I could, and I wanted to keep my handicap within single figure range. And I'd usually find that I was towards the higher end of the spectrum when I was down practicing.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You'll know better than most that how you view a golf course can vary so greatly depending on how well you actually get the ball round it. Were there any kind of particularly great golf courses that stand out that you just didn't have a good day on, that you kind of walked off and had to kind of adjust your perspective maybe?
I think Western Gales kind of springs to mind in the traumatic. Yeah, that wasn't fun. That really wasn't fun. It was really windy. It was really rainy. And I think I lost 3 balls on one hole there. The one that bordered Dundonald on the back nine. Yeah, it was the Sunday of, I think it was the Sunday of the Open we actually played it, and the weather was miserable. And it was absolutely fantastic golf course. I just lost all ability to play golf, sadly.
Interesting you mentioned that, and I've got it in my notes, and we're gonna circle back to that part of the world later on, if that's okay. But before we kind of get tucked into different areas, courses, because I really want to pick your brains on this wealth of knowledge that you've undoubtedly built in the last year. Just want to start with your golfing background. We alluded to it at the beginning, like you had an Instagram account that was rocking prior to the challenge, and you're obviously a very avid golfer. But kind of take us right back. Like, where did you start? What age was it? How did you grow up with the game?
Started about 16. I joined a local kind of pitch and putt, glorified pitch and putt, and I remember Dad got me a brand new set of clubs when I was probably maybe 10, 11, and I played one round of them and never saw them again. And I think Dad was a little frustrated by that. Dad actually got a membership he got his membership approved the day I was born, which is probably a subtle foreshadowing of some regard. But it was at that age where you play so many different sports. I remember trampolining, tennis, scouts, football, cricket. I'd do everything, and golf was the short straw. It was the boring one that took too long, and why would I just walk around a field? And when I was about 16, I got into college and started playing this. And I remember joining a proper golf club when I was 16, and I just fell in love with it. And I'd started playing with people who were 2 years younger than me, who were off four. And as a 28 handicap, you quite quickly learn, because they'll rinse you if you're playing bad shots, and you very quickly learn and go, well, play it this way, do it this way. Why are you doing that for? And I just fell in love with it. And quite quickly after that, I realized that I love exploring and seeing different golf courses, and that kind of then prompted me to get out and live on the Top 100 website, looking and planning new trips and whatnot. And before you knew it, I'd kind of found a little adventure posting videos on Top 100s, and then that helped me. That became quite useful because people would then see the videos and see what I was trying to do and reach out and go, Josh, I'm a member at so and so, and that's how I got on the likes of Wentworth and places like that. And before you know it, I was kind of slowly accumulating the numbers, and then obviously lost mum, and the world record idea came along very quickly, and within a space of kind of 6 months, I'd kind of brainstormed the whole thing, seen if it was viable, and then just gone from there.
Amazing. Am I right in thinking that you went to the Lee Westwood Academy at Stoke-on-Ayland?
Not Lee Westwood. I was at Easton, which is one in Norwich, but we used to play against the Lee Westwood school.
That's what it was, because I think I remember it must have been the Stoke-on-Ayland video you did, and I can't remember exactly what it was. So yeah, I just had it in my notes to ask that question, because that's about 20 minutes from me.
Nice,
So not
nice
far
place.
away. Yeah, nice place. I was going to ask your opinion if you're Kings Lynn boys, as you mentioned just off before we started recording. Not a particular wealth of golf this way, is there?
It's East Anglia in general is quite depressing, really, especially when you've been after this all now looking at. I've been everywhere around the UK, and there's so many hotspots for golf. You look at Surrey, you look at East Lothian, you look at the Northwest. There's hotspots where there's just so many golf courses. Hertfordshire has a ridiculous amount, even in Essex as well. And you look at Norfolk, and it's fairly sparse. I remember looking where I lived because I wanted to come back home for Christmas. We were looking at it. I think there was about 2 courses within half an hour of where I lived that actually qualified for the world record. And you go to like North Berwick and there's like 20. It's just, so it's a bit sad, really. I mean, there are some really good links courses on the coast. You've got Hunstanton, you've got Sheringham, you've got Royal West Norfolk, Cromer. You've got all of these courses out there. So there is a lot of quality, but there's just not a lot of quantity.
Yeah, as I said, that bunch up the north of Norfolk is probably the shining light, which is a relatively dimly lit part of the UK. But
it's an island. It's an island, Norfolk.
Yeah,
it's so far away from everywhere.
It hasn't got particularly good sport in general. We've got no Premiership rugby team. We haven't got a really standout Premier League football team. Anyway, we won't go too far down that rabbit hole. You did mention it. You're obviously a very big fan of the Top 100 website, as are we. We kind of live and die by those lists. And that's certainly how when I started getting into golf, I came relatively late like you. I started playing when I was about 18, 19 again, just kind of played every other sport growing up. And then eventually it was weirdly enough, it was Bubba Watson's first Masters for me. That's just what got me. Who knows why?
Pink driver. Must have been the pink driver.
It was the pink driver. Do you know what? He just lashed it around in the Travis Matthews that week. And I was like, I'm up for it. Slightly annoyingly, I then didn't have a lesson for 2 years trying to be like Bubba Watson, which I then, came to find out that wasn't the best way to get good quickly. But anyway, I've spent many an hour on that website, and it's a treasure trove for golf nerds, basically. Planned so many trips. Cool. All right. So the challenge. It's obviously what we want to talk about. So we alluded to it in the intro, 652 rounds of golf, which to be honest blew the old number out the water, which was 581,
580.
580. You mentioned just a second ago, what was the stipulation that courses had to meet in order for them to qualify?
Guinness set quite a lot of criteria, and it was quite apparent it was an American world record, because there's a lot of courses that fall foul of the regulations over here in the UK. But it had to play over 6,000 yards, had to be 18 different holes. You had to play the course in order, um, which again ruled out some weird kind of 10th tee starts, which is a bit annoying. What else was there? You had to follow the rules of golf. You had to complete every hole, and obviously there's a quite a stringent layer of verification in there as well.
Interesting. Yeah, bizarrely enough, a very close friend of mine has just broken a world record. He ran 80 ultra marathons in 80 days. And I didn't realize before speaking to him really how much kind of prep it goes into before the challenge, just getting Guinness to essentially say, yes, if you do it this way, we will then actually award you the record. I'd have thought you just start and let someone know and then it goes like that.
They are ultimately a money-making organization at the end of the day, so you have to kind of bear that in mind. I remember when I spoke to Patrick, the guy who had the record, I reached out to him and said, look, I want to try and break your record. And he was actually he was very good to me. And looking back at it, he probably shouldn't have been, because it was probably less than 6 months after he'd broken it himself. I reached out to him and said, look, I want to break it. And he actually didn't do it through Guinness because he had a few negative experiences with them in terms of them taking quite a long time to reply. You can pay to expedite the process, but the bottom line is they get a ridiculous amount of requests. How many marbles can you shove up your nose, or whatever? There's all kinds of people asking silly questions, and they have to honor all of them. So the bottom line is that the verification side isn't too hard. I mean, it's Patrick played a lot of golf himself and he wanted to play himself, so there was no way to have that verified. So the 580 was actually an unofficial number. So my kind of logic was, I want to beat the record, but I want to do it officially as well. So they are in the next room. I've got 652 scorecards kind of just sat there waiting to be fully uploaded. But yeah, it's no kind of simple feat, but that's good because you look at it and go, well, that's the way it should be, because you don't want people breaking the system.
So I assume if the scorecards are next door, you haven't got the certificate through yet. Is that still a moment ahead of you?
No, there's a few things I need to do. There's a few courses that I may have forgot to get signatures at and stuff like that. So it's then the process of actually having to go and get them all sent back. And as with all of this corporate lifestyle, it's a very long-winded thing to get through to the right person and to get it sent over, to get it sent back with the right. And I've had to send a few even back again because they weren't done properly.
Blimey.
So it's a nightmare, but we're nearly there, and
Wow.
hopefully we have a bit of a contact within Guinness as well, which might help just speed the process up a little bit, because there was a documentary on it as well. So I think there's a little bit of a kind of joint motive from all of us, a bit of an ulterior motive, I suppose, to try and get it done as quickly as possible. But yeah, the day that comes through will be certainly a weight off my shoulders, not having to worry about this anymore.
I bet, and admin in general must have been a weight on your shoulders for the whole year. Now, I assume you had some help with some of it. I know that were various people helping you with planning and stuff like that, but give us a bit of insight into that. Like, how much were you actually doing yourself? Because obviously the voiceover on the video that was going out every day was your voice, so you're taking the time to do that. And I know from editing videos, like, it takes just so much longer than you even think it should as a starting point.
Yeah. The first 60 days of the challenge, I pretty much did everything myself. And it was the hardest 60 days of the challenge. I think I averaged about 1.5 a day. But this was when courses were starting to close every now and again because of rainfall, especially in Essex, which is a bad idea going at that time of year. But I also didn't have, the network of contacts that I did at the end of the year. I reached out to golf clubs and said, look, this is what I'm trying to do. Would you be able to look after me? And once I announced the videos on social media, I had a few people reaching out. But the bottom line was, we maybe had 120 invites, which was spread across the UK. Well, by the end of the year, I had something stupid like 1,200. So it was a lot easier to actually route. But I was really struggling, it ate me up. It really did, because not only did I have to play 36 holes, I then have to socialize with the people I'm playing with, so I didn't feel like a nasty person. I wanted to kind of have a drink with them and maybe have some food. Then I'd have to have a shower. Then I'd have to go and find somewhere to eat. Then I'd have to travel over to the next course. I'd have to add in the kind of laundry and the kind of cleaning tasks as well every now and again. And then on top of that, I've got to make a video and I've got to plan more golf. And I remember the first 60 days, it just being every single waking hour of every day, I was doing something. I just didn't have time off. And I think I got away with it because the challenge was new, it was exciting, and I enjoyed it. But I realized it wasn't sustainable. And
Mm.
very, very fortunately had a few people along the way who kind of chipped in and helped. And what you do is you play with someone and they go, "Oh, Josh, well, I know this person here, I know this person here, this person here." They tend to be local, which sometimes it really helps if you haven't got a long-term 10-day window ahead planned. But if you had a window planned, it was tough because you couldn't really fit them in because you'd already planned to exit the area. But I had Alex come on board just short of halfway through the year, I think. And he just transformed it. He was absolutely unbelievable. He's just a tech nerd. He's the dream that everybody wants from the golf trip planning. If you're going on a golf holiday, you want him planning it for you, because he I remember looking at his notes when we played together and met for the first time down at Saunton in Devon. And he's got like a note on his Apple Notes. He's got probably 15, 20 golf trips planned. And it's like, if you were going to go do the top five in Norway, this is what it'd look like. And I'm like, okay,
Wow.
cool. And Alex, are you ever going to go on any of these trips? He's, oh yeah, maybe one day, and it's like, he just loves that planning aspect to it. And I reached out to him and I said, look, Alex, I'm really struggling. I'm happy to pay you like whatever. I just need a bit of help. And he said, well, we'll see how we go. And he took it on board. He took it in stride. And I remember opening the laptop and looking at the spreadsheet after a day of what I just mentioned, absolutely exhausted. And when we tick them, it would go green. And I remember it was about within 2 days, he'd booked about 14 days worth of golf,
Wow.
because he's just reaching out to members, utilizing the routing in a more beneficial way. I
Yeah.
remember just looking at that and just closing the laptop, not saying anything, just almost like nearly crying because I was that exhausted and just going to sleep. And I slept like a baby that day, and that started the process of just making my life so much easier and allowing me to focus on the other stuff that needed focusing on, and also enjoying the year. And then Andy came on board later on. Andy was the kind of sales guru, sell sand to an Arab. He was brilliant. He was really, really good. He was basically ringing people that we didn't have invites to, bring clubs up and say, look, Josh is trying to do this. He It would sound better coming from someone else rather than going, I'm trying to do this, give me this, give me this. So
Mm.
he would reach out to them, and all of a sudden we just had like a little team, and there was the three of us. And Alex was great in terms of the tech side, but wasn't as salesy and wasn't as confident on the phone. And then Andy wasn't really interested in where we're going. He's just like, give me a list of people and I'll call them. And we
Yeah.
just found the magic formula, and that made the rest of the journey so good. And I think if you look at the kind of the growing of the year, it got to the point where the busiest period of time was when they were there, because it was just so much easier.
Yeah. Love it. Amazing. Yeah. So good to hear that you had such a good team behind you. And because I said slightly comparable with my friend trying to do his world record. He was running 5 hours a day, having to recover, and so trying to do this whole social media, raising money, and all the rest of it thing. He just said it's just like, yeah, every waking second goes into this kind of stuff, and I think that's what people don't quite consider maybe when they're just watching your daily video of you playing
There was
36
a lot of
amazing holes.
comments of no sympathy or wow, tiny
Yeah.
violin or something like that, but you realize the reality of it, which is that it's a little village of stuff going on. It's
Yeah.
there's I remember Patrick telling me that there's like 6 jobs associated with the world record: is the planning, the driving, the playing, the kind of the household stuff, the cooking, the cleaning, the recovery. There's so much. There's the hygiene section. You need to go and get showered and keep clean. Like there's so many different parts of it, and to do it all yourself is impossible.
Any injuries?
Not really. I had a few illnesses, like a few flus, which really hit quite hard. Thought I had COVID at one point. It was horrible because you've got to wake up and play 36 holes every day. And doing that when you're feeling really horrible, waking up stupid in the morning when you've not had great sleep because you can't breathe through your nose, you're just struggling. And I remember everybody tended to ask the same questions. So it'd be a bit Groundhog Day in the respect I would be exactly the same. So I have no qualms about it. But everyone would ask questions which tended to follow a very similar line of questioning. And having to do that when you're ill was really tough. But, it was mitigated by the fact that, in the summer up in Scotland, it was absolutely unbelievable. The time of my life.
I was actually about to ask you that. I think I saw in a video where you said that the line of questioning was incredibly repetitive. And I took a moment just to consider, if I was to have played with you along the journey, what would I have come up with to ask you that maybe was different? Because you played with so many different people. Do you have the number of different people that you actually played with?
I do have someone, I think it was about 800
I mean, that's a phenomenal amount of people
different
that you've
people.
met.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I've
and
probably met at least double that in terms of, shaking hands in the clubhouse
yeah,
and meeting people and whatnot, but actually playing with people. Obviously, I tried to keep it low because I wanted to try and prioritize getting around a golf course quickly,
yeah.
which was, again, is one of the negatives of the year because it's work at the end of the day. You've got to try and get around this golf course as quick as possible so you can recover quicker. But you do that at the expense of meeting people, making connections, and also enjoying the golf course.
Mm. Cool. All right. So, by the facts, 652 different golf courses played in a year. I believe it was across 6 countries. You started at Woodhall Spa on the 24th of January 2025, ended at Prince's Golf Club on the 25th of January 2026. To date, you've raised £85,075, 42p, plus I think 13 odd grand of gift aid. So almost at six figures, which is unbelievable effort. Just before we dive into some course by course stuff, how did the Sky Sports stuff come about?
I had a before the year started, I wanted to try and get as much done as I could. And the website was one of them things, trying to make it easy for people reaching out. I realized that I might be bombarded with messages at some point. And so a way that people could reach out, whether that was through trying to offer their course out, sponsorship opportunities, anything like that. And one of them was for media inquiries. And I had a producer reach out. He'd worked for Sky, Finn, his name was, and he'd done a lot of work for Sky and he wanted to come up with his own production company. And he saw something in it and he said, look, I love the idea. I love it. And I think there's a way that we can get this on the screens. And I'm probably a little bit skeptical at first, as you probably would be, thinking I'm not going to make the screens with something like this. But he was true to his word, and we met, probably 10 times over the course of the year at different courses, meeting different people, and yeah, it's something that I can look back on for the rest of my life with kind of being immensely proud of it.
Amazing. When the first episodes went out, did you see any spike in donations or anything like that?
Donations wise, I think we had a fair few at the end of them. I think it was tough because I don't think we really included my social media handles in there or the website. So people would probably have to use a little bit of common sense or even, really have to try and dig for that information. I mean, it's probably findable, but it wasn't, at your fingertips. So that might slow people down a little bit, but that really helped.
Nice. And then last thing, just before we jump in, I mean, we spoke about East Anglia being a bit of a dead spot golf. I was looking at your map on the website. It almost shows now exactly where the main golf courses of the UK are. It's very interesting to just see where the quite significant dead spots are.
Mm.
Inland Wales doesn't seem. I don't know if there are golf courses there and you just didn't go, but like it's really some significant dead spots. I thought was interesting.
Yeah, there are. I mean, the coast, I think if you look at the kind of top 10 of Wales, I'm trying to think if there are any that aren't off the coast. I mean, you've got Celtic Manor, but I think if we talk like proper rural Wales, I don't think there really is anything. So a lot of them tend to be there, and it's not a great country in terms of quantity for golf. It's not the biggest country, but it doesn't also have the most golf courses as well. So I utilised and played a lot of really, really good golf courses in Wales just following the coastline.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. All right, let's jump into it, because we're a golf travel podcast, and I said your insight to especially UK golf, but there are obviously a couple of different countries in there as well, must be immense at this point. So, if you don't mind, going to take us to a couple of different areas and just going to ask you some questions on the courses there, if that's okay. So, I was flicking through the list, and the first kind of significant patch that hit me was you hit the Surrey Berkshire Sandbelt in around April 25. And just to let the listeners know, you went on this streak. You went 36 holes at Burr Hill, Warpleston, Wintlesham, Sunningdale Old, West Hill, Woking, Hindhead, Liphook. That was all in a row. Then a couple of days later, you were at St George's Hill, Swinley Forest, the rest. I mean, that was a big boy 4 weeks in and around London. You must have been
I
pitching yourself then.
I remember that week, and I still talk about that week, starting pretty much nearly as you kind of started it there. The 7-day period of courses that I did was phenomenal, and I was insanely privileged to be able to do it. But again, it just goes back to this kind of, I wish I got to appreciate it a bit more, because it was just another working day. The big question is, too much of a good thing? Is it? And I think it is. I remember the way I always compare it is when I was younger and I really couldn't be bothered to go to work or something like this, and I'd have a day off, and then you lay in, you go, oh, this is brilliant, and then you realise, like, what am I doing? Or you have holiday or whatever, and you have a bit of time off, and you realise that I'm bored now, and it's just the case of, you always want what you can't have, and the idea of playing this much golf is a dream, and for the most part, it was. I really enjoyed it, but the downside of that is waking up on the day where you can't be bothered to play golf, and you're waking up, and it's just, it was a mission to get through. But I think Surrey in general was, because it was still very early in the year, so I was still excited. I was still looking forward to the rest of what was to come. And Surrey was just it was a magnificent place to play golf. And obviously at that time of year with the soil, sandy soil, it was absolutely sublime.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I have gone on a lot of golf trips. I've organised a lot of golf trips, and I have a threshold. And I love golf, but I have a threshold. I think last year we went to South Africa and we played 11 times in 13 days. And that was too much. Like, after about 4 days in a row, happy to put them away for a second, get excited again, and then come back to it. So I feel you. So in that area, you got 4 in the top 100, but then a lot of very heavy hitters as well. 3Ws, Berkshire. What are the ones that jump out to you? They don't have to be the obvious, but through that stretch, which ones do you remember most fondly?
I think in my top 10, I'd probably put Sunningdale Old, Swinley, and I'd probably say St George's Hill in there as well. I think they're all fabulous courses. I mean, Sunningdale is such a cool place to play golf. Home of one of 2 10 out of 10 showers as well for the year, which was always a big positive. But I just don't think it gets much better. It really doesn't. The feel you get. I mean, obviously the course is brilliant, and it says a lot when you've got so many people arguing which is the best, and it's on a knife edge between the two. I prefer the old, but I know a lot of people who prefer the new, and it's personal preference when it gets to that good of golf courses. But the feeling you get when you're there inside the clubhouse, the history, you get to go and see the big tree. Some of the holes there, you see the ones that you always see on the photos. The halfway hut just after the 10th, which looks magnificent on the old. It's a beautiful place to play golf.
Yeah, I would, if there was a membership in the world that I could wish upon myself, I think it would have to be Sunningdale. I can't think of anywhere. Oh, obviously you go to America and you could be an Augusta member or whatever, but certainly in the UK, where it is, the quality of the 2 golf courses and everything that goes with it, like it is, it's a really, really special place. And I think overlooked by a lot of people planning golf trips. I think they automatically go to Ireland or Scotland, whereas coming into London, you can dip into the city, and then playing the golf courses out there is unbelievable. I love St George's Hill. Actually, I haven't played Swinley Forest. So St George's Hill, did you know they're about to do major works on their blue and red course? They're shutting the front nine, which I think is the red, for a year come this summer, and then
Oh wow.
once that reopens, they're then shutting the blue for a year. So interesting to see what they do there, because I thought and think that St George's Hill is near enough 18 good golf holes, which I think is the mark of the golf course when they don't have a weak stretch or anything like that. I really think it's a good golf course. So,
It's an interesting one. I think you see, I mean, Sunningdale are just about to make a load of changes on the, I think they've just made a load of changes on the new, and I think they're then going to, in the next few years, make a load of changes on the old. And when you've got courses that are in the top 10 in England and in the world top 100, even Royal St George's are a good example as well. If they're making changes, then it just goes to show the bar is being constantly pushed and pushed. You obviously
mm,
run the risk of ruining it to a really great extent, but these people, these golf architects know what they're doing, and I'd be excited to see it because, yeah, like you say, I mean, it's a fantastic hole. Probably doesn't need fantastic course. It doesn't need a lot doing to it
mhm,
to make it, but I guess when you've got a big acreage like that,
mhm,
there's probably room for maneuver. I mean, I remember someone telling me at Sunningdale that uh, when they went there and they looked down the first of the old course, which is par five, behind the green, it was all these kind of shrubby bushes, and it was all quite messy.
mhm,
This is secondhand information, but they're saying, well, we wanted to remove that. We want to give it a more of a kind of treeless look because everyone's going down the course of tree removal nowadays. So we want to try and make it just clear out, make it a little neater. And I think little things like that are still ways that you could improve the second best golf course in England.
yeah, 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 crazy. What's your pick of the three W's?
I really wish you hadn't have asked me that because I genuinely don't know if I could pick a winner. I genuinely think it's so difficult. Woking, not a fan of the first hole there, but the rest of it is
Very short par
unbelievable.
four,
Drivable
Woking.
par four over the hill.
Mm,
I think in the olden days, it used to be the kind of ease into the round because I didn't have practice facilities, which completely makes sense. But it's a weak hole compared to the rest, I think. And then you've got West Hill. There's a hole that goes around the corner, just after the halfway house. I can't remember the maybe on the back nine, I think. So Dog Lane, right? That's not my favourite, but again, some really, really strong holes in there. And then Warplesdon, I played for the first time in the record, and again, unbelievable course. I genuinely don't. I mean, all three of them have such different feels to it as well. West Hill is kind of this more modern, like the clubhouse, and the feel is very kind of new money. Woking is very kind of old money, tradition, quintessential. And then Warplesdon, I think, is a mix of both. Oh, it's really that's killing me. I think I might have to say Woking.
really?
I might have to
Wow,
say Woking.
love it. It is such a good question because they are all different, but they are all similar enough, and obviously in the area together that the question can be posed. And
I can't believe you've got that out of me because it's such a horrible. It's. I think it will change the more I play either one because it is on such a knife edge. It genuinely is such a difficult debate to have.
did you know that they have an agreement between the three of them so that the members can play each other's course relatively easily? So I've got a friend at Warpston, and he told me that, and I was like, do you know what? That's
It's a
quite
nice
cool.
touch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a really nice
nice
touch.
little reciprocal.
Then my last question on the Surrey area, shall we call it? So you played Queenwood, you played Wisley, you played Wentworth. Did you play Beaverbrook?
No.
Didn't go on Beaverbrook. Okay. We will take Beaverbrook out of the running. From the three ultra exclusive golf clubs, which one did you have the best experience at?
Good question. I think if we're talking purely experience and not on the golf course, I think Queenwood is just hard to match. I've never experienced anything from a hospitality point of view as I have at Queenwood. I think Loch Lomond up in Scotland came close, but you, I don't think I touched my clubs the whole day. And it's just you kind of ring through, and there's no sign on the golf club. It's very kind of minimal. It's very hidden, discreet. And I said, look, I've got a tea time. You drive through this beautiful driveway. I think only to be rivaled by a Loch Lomond for views. And you get to there, they open the door for you. They take your clubs out of the car. They'll park your car down in the car park, so you don't touch your clubs there. The caddies then come and pick them up, and then they're waiting for you on the range with your Pro Vs on the grass range with your bag, and they'll take your bag around the whole round for you. And again, it will be put into your car and off you go. And so there's nothing like that in the UK. I'm sure a lot of these ultra exclusive clubs in the US do that. And I think especially I've noticed in Dubai, there was quite a bit of the hospitality over there was very good as well. But I just, yeah, for England, that was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's quite the experience. And I think if you'd have gone to Beaverbrook, you'd have got the same, like their,
Mm.
I'd say level pegging. I think Beaverbrook's debenture is actually slightly more expensive than Queenwood's at the moment, but is rare for the UK. And it's a real treat when you get to experience it. It
It was a
really
bucket
is.
list day. I was super privileged to go and play it. It's just a really cool place. And obviously, I know people at 99 of the England list who just need this one to try and get it, and they can't. And it just goes to show that it is really, really difficult to get a game on.
It is indeed. Okay, cool. So you move through Surrey, and then another day that jumps out to me is on the 29th of June, you did the Hillside Birkdale 36 double. Birkdale, the Open this year. I'm playing Hillside actually, not this weekend, the weekend after. Great course. Really looking forward to it. That must have been one that was right up there.
It was a very good day. So many people have asked the best day I've had for golf, and that certainly gets thrown into the equation. That I think there was a day where I did Swinley and Sunningdale New in a day, and then I think up in Scotland I did both of the Trump Internationals up there, which there's probably a few more that I'm even forgetting as well. But yeah, two fantastic golf courses. Hillside has probably one of the best back nines out there. Really, really good golf course. And obviously Birkdale has just gone through a major redevelopment to get it ready for the Open. So I've played that twice now, and both of them are a joy to play. And obviously the weather was good, so can't really complain.
So that is one of the areas that we spoke about where you obviously started hitting a great density of good golf courses in one place. Give us your insight. We've named two big ones there that tend to be at the top of everyone's list. Now, we posted out a video where gentleman Will Hawksworth, who came on the pod a couple of weeks ago, he hadn't played Birkdale, so didn't include it, but then gave his top five of the courses around there and caused quite a lot of debate, actually. Got quite a lot of views as a result of it, which is always good. Formby, let's include Lytham up the top, Hoylake, Wallasey down below, S&A, Hesketh as well, worth a mention. Don't have to necessarily give us the top five, but of the others, was there one that jumped out as a really good track that you enjoyed?
That northwest coastline is just a hotspot for golf, and I think it's still even quite untapped. I think the Americans will go there for the headliners, the ones that have held the Open. But I think just looking at the likes of Wallasey, the likes of Southport and Ainsdale, West Lancs, you've got so many good golf courses down there, and I'm probably missing tens of them that are still really, really worth it. You've got St Anne's Old Links and Fairhaven up near Lytham, which are both really, really good tracks as well. It's tough. I mean, Lytham is fantastic. That was the first time I'd played Lytham. I think I'd played all the rest of them apart from Lytham up there. And Lytham, I really enjoyed it. It had a really cool feeling to it. Birkdale was obviously a more kind of modern. They've certainly put a lot of money into the course changes. And then Wallasey is probably one of the most underrated for me up in that area. You've just got, I mean, that hole that goes along the coast there is sublime. And there's a few holes that probably still need a bit of work on it, but the one thing that they've done really well is the grass paths. You know, it just winds so seamlessly from green to tee, and I think that a lot of people would go there and be blown away by that. but the area in general is phenomenal.
Yeah, we played Wallasey. Was it last March or the March before? I can't remember. First time up there. And like you said, I think the holes in the dunes are incredible. And if they could have 18 holes in the dunes, we'd have a seriously, seriously good golf course on our hands. It is just let down by those holes that go out towards the housing estate, if you will. Also, don't think the first hole is great, but I think it's the fourth that you just mentioned with the coastal down the right. Unbelievable from the top of that tee
Yeah,
box. And we played
100%.
it in March and was in really good condition as well. I think they're so lucky up there. Be interesting to see what Hillside's like when I go next week. And as I said, just crossing my fingers for decent weather. And I think we can kind of segue quite nicely to the next part. So basically, next week I'm working my way north. I'm going through Sheffield, playing Hallamshire on Sunday. Then I'm up. I've got Dundonald Links Tuesday, Turnberry Wednesday, Thursday, Western Gales Friday. That was funny you mentioned that earlier. And then back down via Hillside. I've never played any of the Scottish courses, so what am I in for with Donald Links, the Turnberry courses, and Western Gales? Like I said, we're crossing fingers that we're going to get decent weather, but yeah, we're going to roll that dice.
It's always a bit of a risk that time of year. I mean, that's a fantastic itinerary to go up there and play. Dundonald wasn't my favorite out of the lot of them. It's more of a kind of American style course. It's still very good. There's dunes in there, but it's just a bit too American style for me, especially when you're looking at a links course and what else is available in the area. Western Gales is an unbelievable golf course. I remember one par five that kind of snakes its way. I think it's on the front line. It snakes its way round, and it's a very tight approach shot into the green, which just provides an incredible element of risk reward. Turnberry, you're just not going to get much better than Turnberry for that. I mean, the Lighthouse, the Pro Shop, I suppose the alternative top tens for the year. The Pro Shop was number one for me of just the best. So you probably
Josh,
need to bring a bit of money with you there. It's it's like a mega store. Like I've seen American golfs that are smaller.
I'm really excited about the pro shops next week, and that's really excited me that you've mentioned the Turnberry one. And we might as well take a little interlude and segue into pro shops whilst it's mentioned. We love pro shops. We love stash. We love logos. And when you find a good one,
Mm-hmm.
it's just one of life's great experiences. Can you give me a top three pro shops of the year?
I'm not sure. I mean, Turnberry's certainly number one. I really enjoyed Royal Cinque Ports down on the south coast.
Yeah.
They have a really good pro shop. Just it's bougie, you know. They've kind of thrown a few little bits and bobs in there. It's not all golf clothing. They've got like a few teddy bears and a few. They do the Scottish way a little bit more.
Funnily you mentioned them. I think I follow maybe an assistant pro there in LinkedIn, something like that. And they posted a merchandise photo. I think I reposted it because I was just like, that looks lovely.
I had a really good time down there. Yeah, and they're also friendly down there. And I've not done George's yet, so I don't know what George's is like. But I think what I would probably say, Sunningdale is very good. I think Swinley Forest is as well when you get the opportunity to play that. I don't know if they've got an Instagram account. I don't think the club actually have an Instagram account, but the pro shop do.
Pro shop does.
And
Yeah, yeah.
if you look at the Instagram account of that, they've just got this like rows and rows of cute kind of square holders, and everything will just be so brightly colored. They've all got like loads of different colored polos in there. It just looks fantastic. Everything's so neat. So because it's not a big pro shop, it's tiny. I reckon you could fit probably 10, at least 10 of them into Turnberry to get the same size. But it's a very, very well cozy, neat, packed out. And there's probably a fair few more. It's just my memory's fading me a little bit.
I follow Swinley Forest Pro Shop, so I know exactly the photo you're trying to describe. It's really well done. Yeah, well, that's very excited about Turnberry. I said on the last pod, I gave a friend who was in Melbourne and he was going to Royal Melbourne, and I gave him very strict talking to that you needed to go in and it had to be a head cover, bull marker, polo, minimum.
Mhm.
I can report he got all three of those, and I think he also bought himself something else. So 4 items purchased. So I was relieved when I got that message, but I think I'm going to have to give myself the same talking to for Turnberry next week. And so to
The
conclude on
selection,
Pro
you've
Shop,
just got so much. You've just got so many different brands there as well. That's the hard part. You've got whiskey, you've got prints, you've got teddy bears, you've got so many alternative things that you could just walk away with, which is painful.
yeah. What is your go-to brand? Where do you go in the Pro Shop first?
I like. It's a bit of a niche one. It's Bees Raddy, but they're an American brand, but they're only in the really big shops that get a lot of American visitors. So you'll see them in. You'll have to keep an eye out for them in Turnberry because you'll see them up there. But you don't get to see them that much down in England. Peter Miller is great. I probably would stick with them too. I'd probably
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, Peterman is hard to go wrong there. How much Pro Shop damage did you do through the year? Like I was seeing new items appear in the videos every so often, and I was like, he's been got again. Was it a full new suitcase, or did you behave yourself?
The wardrobe that we see behind me has no golf clothes in. I've actually commandeered the spare rooms wardrobe, and it's filled that up. It's not good. I actually did a video for a friend the other day of how much logoed stuff I got, and there were points of the year where I'd buy it and I wouldn't even wear it
Really?
during the year because I was like, I'm saving this.
Well, for
It's
the audio
it's
listeners, you've got a lovely Walton Heath piece on today, so yeah, love to see it. All right, let's keep moving. There's 2 hole days I want to talk about, mainly because of them including new courses, which a lot of people may not have got to. So you did the double at Cabot up in the Highlands, so Old Petty being the new course there, and then you also did the double at Trump Aberdeen, and so their new course being the new course there. What were those 36 hole days like? What were the new courses like? Give us some insight on what it was like to play there.
it's a really good experience. I think they gave me a little sheet of paper which told me what person I was to play. I think I was something in the 600s or something to play the course, which is a nice little touch. I think if you were to compare the two, Trump is so far ahead in terms of condition. But I
Interesting.
played with a HGV driver up there who was delivering refrigerated grass to Trump. So there really was no budget to design and build that golf course, and it's shown. The only part, if you went there tomorrow and played it, the only thing that would tell you it's a new course is probably the rough. They've not been able to cut the rough because that needs a bit of bedding in time. So the rough is you just won't find a ball in there. And it's also quite dangerous because there's so many little chasms and holes and whatnot because it's not properly bedded in yet that you could quite easily do an ankle on. So that would be the only telltale sign for me that that's a brand new course. Old Petty had a little bit of work to do. It was the greens were rolling very good, but there was probably a little bit more coverage that was needed. Some of the bunkers that still hadn't been filled in. I think even on the course guide, there was a few bunkers that weren't even shown on the course guide yet. So there's a little bit of work that still needs to be done there. But they're two very different golf courses. Old Petty is much more of an expansive golf course. It's not on a traditional piece of land, like a links piece of land, which might be long and thin, like the other Castle Stuart one follows that a little bit more. It's on a more of a circular piece of land,
Hmm.
and every tee points in a slightly different direction, which is an interesting little kind of tidbit from that. But the routing at Old Petty, which is Castle Stuart, Cabot's, is phenomenal. Like again, it just almost like with Wallasey, it blends so seamlessly from green to tee, and you won't find yourself walking back to any of the back tees. You'll kind of walk past the back tees, which I think is just from a routing perspective, it's so good and it keeps it communal because if you've got someone playing off the blacks and someone playing off the yellows, you just don't. It's so much more of a social game by routing a
Mm.
course that way. And
Yeah.
Trump is phenomenal. Trump is probably as I'd probably even slightly put it better than the old there. It's a very, very good course.
So that was going to be my next question. You have played enough to give a good opinion on this kind of question. Where do you think those two courses will enter the rankings? Are you seeing them UK and Ireland ranked? Do you think the new Trump might get into the world top 100? How are you viewing it?
Yeah, it's it's an interesting one. I haven't really given it much thought. I think Trump will certainly push its way into the UK and Ireland list very comfortably. Old Petty has the potential too. I just think it's a little new. And top 100 are always quite interesting the way that they push courses in. Some I've noticed are pushed in a bit prematurely, and some of them are not. And sometimes they give the reason, well, it needs a bit of bedding in time. But there's some courses that have already needed a bit of bedding in time that are still quite highly ranked. So it's sometimes quite difficult to get your head around it. But yeah, I think Old Petty is the one that I really can't predict. I think it will, even looking at it from a Scotland perspective, because you've got 15 golf courses in Scotland that, again, if you gave someone the chance to go and play all of them and didn't show them the rankings, they'd probably put them all over the place, with no bias. And I think that's the beauty, and it just shows the quality of golf in that area and in the UK in general. It's just so tough to pick winners.
Yeah. No, it's I'd love to speak to someone at top 100 actually and learn. I get a bit more insight into really what goes into the rankings. Broadly speaking, I agree with it. I kind of live by the list. It's just how I've decided to operate. But I have played a couple of courses that I think are excellent and are quite criminally underrated in my opinion. But I'll be looking at that. I'll be really interested to see where they enter. So yeah, that'll be an interesting one. You did then head over to Northern Ireland. You didn't get to the southern part of Ireland. In terms of destinations, Scotland versus Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland obviously have some very heavy hitters, but then maybe not the depth. But if you're from America, say, and you're looking at a trip, how are you pitting the options in Scotland against Northern Ireland in your experience?
I think Northern Ireland has the very top level, the best courses for me. County Down, I would put as my best, probably that I've ever played.
Wow.
And Portrush is almost as good a golf course, I would say. It just doesn't have the backdrop that County Down does. And so if you're coming over and you want to play the creme de la creme, then you would go to Northern Ireland. But the downside of that is that it just doesn't, as you said, it doesn't have the depth to really create a trip, especially if you're going to be making a journey from, let's say, the States. So Scotland is fantastic because you can play so many golf courses and all of them be showstoppers. So if
Yeah.
you want to go and play, you want to go for 5 days and play courses in Northern Ireland, you could play probably two absolute worldy courses, but then there's just a bit of a dip in terms of the other ones. I didn't get to play Port Stewart. They had a few holes closed when I was over there, sadly, so I can't
Oh, shame.
can't vouch for that one. But if you go into Scotland, if one of them doesn't have an availability on that day, you can just go and play one of the other 14 that are just as good as the others.
Nice, super interesting. Then you concluded your year with some international stuff. Went seeking some winter sun. Went to Belek in Turkey. You went to Dubai. Take me to one. Which was your favourite out of the two?
I think Dubai is tough to beat. I think Turkey, I didn't really go at the best time of year. It was still a little cold there, a little rainy, but more importantly, the golf courses were open and it was perfect timing from our side. We always wanted to try and get abroad towards the end because just before I started the challenge, it was frozen and courses were closed. And I wanted to keep the streak alive of playing every day of the challenge. And I realized that doing that in England might be tough. And to be fair, the few days before I flew to Turkey, everything was starting to close. So it was a miracle we managed to still keep the streak going. But yeah, Dubai is just perfect for winter sun.
Well, thank God what's going on there at the moment didn't happen during your challenge. Could you imagine if you'd have fallen? Well, I suppose the world record was probably broken by the point you got to Dubai. You were just in, yeah. Imagine it being derailed though as a result of.
Would have been the charity day on the last day of the year would have been interesting if I wasn't there.
Yeah. What's a standout course in Dubai? You can include Yas Links as well if you want to go up to Abu Dhabi.
I'd probably say Yas was great. I'm sounding scarily a bit too much like a Trump lover here, but the Trump International over there is a fantastic golf course. What else was I mean? I didn't do Emirates this time around, but I've been there before. The Jumeirah course, obviously playing there, and that last hole, I didn't get to see it really, sadly, because it was pitch black by the time we got to the 18th, which is probably the signature there. But there's so many good golf courses. They all tend to follow a fairly similar plan, as well as they do in Turkey. They're all quite similar in terms of styles. Yas Links is probably the most different of the lot. And I'd say condition wise, I don't think I've ever played a golf course as well conditioned as that. I remember recording a video of me putting on a tee box, and it just rolled like an 8 on the stimp. And the fairways, I've never seen them cut as short as
Right.
as over there.
Blimey. Yeah, I've not actually got over to Dubai. So I went to Belek last summer, and that's another one of like, you can't believe how many golf courses are just right next to the hotel.
Perfect for what I was trying to do.
Exactly. If you don't want to have to think and go on a golf holiday and just do an all-inclusive roll out of bed, 15 minutes, golf course, go. I did think that Carrier and Montgomery Max were probably the best two out there. Then I thought there was a little step down to the rest. But generally speaking, I thought conditioning was pretty excellent across all.
Yeah, I actually just, funnily enough, just before I come on the podcast, I was just finalising a video of my top list in Turkey. I really enjoyed Saweno Dunes, which is a little hidden gem one, because it's par 69, just a tad over 6,000 yards. But I put it third in my list because
Wow.
I was really surprised by it, and there was just something about it for me that I really enjoyed. Carrier for me is undoubtedly number one. Max Royale is close, but I think, what did I put in number two? I put in is it Antalya?
Antalya, what, the PJ Sultan one?
No, it was the Kings, Cornelia.
Cornelia, yes.
So they've got 3 loops and 9. I think we played the Kings, which is obviously one of the variations there. And apparently that's not even the best out there, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was something a little different. So I put that at number 2. But yeah, Max Royale is a great course over there. There's probably like Carrier is head and shoulders above everything, I would say, over there.
Nice. Cool. All right. If you don't mind, just to conclude, I'm going to just fire some quick fire questions at you. And hopefully this will kind of put the cherry on top to all these different places you've gone to. So, best greens you played on?
Prestbury.
Where is
played
that?
The day of in Manchester. I played the day of club championships. They let me go out in the morning before everyone else, and I'm still traumatized by the speed of them. They're good anyway, but they were rolling really stupidly good then.
Love that. Best pro shop?
Turnberry.
Best shower?
Sunningdale or the Caversham, both 10 out of 10s.
Best clubhouse meal?
The Nottinghamshire, which is
What
a
did you
road
eat?
one. I had a creamy Cajun chicken pasta. It was unbelievable.
Lowest round?
1 under in Rudlan in North Wales.
Highest round?
I think it was 99. It was, I can't remember where it was. It was on a frozen green. It was just, the course was frozen.
Good on you for never going into to 3 figures. Favorite course?
County Down.
Favorite area? So we've kind of covered areas in blocks. So Southport would be an area. Ayrshire would be an area.
Sorry. I just, Heathland Golf for me is the cherry on top.
Amazing. What a journey. I mean, you must sit back and just be like, that is absolutely wild, from idea to execution to now just kind of sitting in the aftermath of it.
It is nuts. It's still probably not even sunk in, really. I mean, it's what, we're probably a month and a half after I've finished it now, and obviously life is a lot different. Being out on the road, it feels like every productive day I have, I get a lot of stuff done, and I still feel like a bit of a bum because I'm not doing as much as I was daily for a year on the road. But I think give it a few years, I'll probably look back and go, yeah, that was crazy.
Amazing. Okay, couple of parting questions. We may have already covered it, but is there anywhere else in the world that you've gone and played golf in that you just think is absolute all-star that's worth mentioning and people should be sticking on their bucket list?
Netherlands. It's the easiest answer I've had so far. I've probably played about 10 countries now, I'd say. And Netherlands is for me just phenomenal. It's not the most glamorous of location if you want wind sun or anything like that, but if you want some of the best heathland golf courses you'll play outside of the UK, then the Trek de Pan is up there, is probably one of my favorite ever.
Interesting. A chap from my golf club actually spoke to me last Saturday saying that he's thinking about putting a trip together there. So super interesting you mentioned that. Was there ever any consideration to go across to France and play the 2K kind of area?
I had a cool couple of invites down towards Paris for a couple of really nice courses down there, but it's just a long way. The language barrier was a bit of an issue. We didn't really have any connections over there, which made it a bit harder to get the verification side of things done. And
Mm.
by the time of the journey that I'd hit the south coast and I was kind of close to Dover, I left that kind of area alone until the end because I was going to finish at Prince's. But by that point, I was pretty I was in a hurry to get up to Scotland for the summertime to really try and get there and up to the Highlands in the summer because I certainly didn't want to be there in October, November time.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, parting question. You got a fantasy four ball and a course of your choice. Who are you playing with? What's the course going to be?
Oh, I don't know. I think Augusta's the easy one, so I'm gonna go for Montfontaine, which is a course down in France, which looks unbelievable, and it's one of the most exclusive in the world to get to. And who would I play with? I don't know. I think Harry Kane has got to be up there. I say it quietly at the moment, but I am a Spurs fan, so I think Harry Kane has to go in there. You've got to have Rory in there. Can it be dead or alive?
Yeah, why not?
I was thinking about Savvy. No, we'll go Tiger. I think you've got to have Tiger in there. Savvy would have come close because that would have been really cool the way that he played golf. But yeah, I think that would be a fantastic one.
Amazing. All right, Josh. Really, really appreciate you spending the time. Yeah, what an incredible journey you've been on. Amazing insight. Let the people know who's listening. Where can they find you? If they want to donate still, can they still do that? What have you got going on at the moment in the future? Yeah, just parting message.
So the website gingergolf.co.uk, ginger.golf on Instagram or TikTok. You can still donate. I think we're closing it on the 1st of April. I think still a few donations left to come in. So yeah, we're really trying to push towards the 100 grand mark. So any donations are greatly welcome. They go to two incredible charities, Macmillan Cancer Support and Tapping House, which is a local hospice to where we are and where my mum did a lot of fundraising for. And what's next is still TBC at the moment. I've got a few silly ideas, but I probably need to get a job. If I'm completely honest with you, I need to earn some money, and if I can find one within the golf industry, then I'll be happy.
Amazing. All right, mate. Thank you very much. As ever, we are Full Program Golf, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and we will see you in the next one.